everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Nimit Dikshit, and it's a privilege to welcome you to this panel titled The Workplace Security in the Digital Age, Secure Browsing, Password Management, and Identity Protection, brought to you by ETLegal World and Zoho Vault. Before I jump into this, I want to tell you all a story. Last year, at another organization that I was working at, I once got a WhatsApp text from my boss, and my boss said, that I'm in India right now. He used to be out of Singapore. He's like, I'm in India, and he's of Indian origin. So he said, I'm in India right now, and my credit cards are not working. Could you send me 40,000 rupees? It's very urgent. And it seemed to be coming. My boss's number was there. The way the words were written were all seemed like it was my boss. The same phrases that he used to write, the way he used to punctuate his sentences, and everything was the same. So I almost sent the money until I realized one thing, that this person is now my ex-boss. I had actually changed organization, and this person is pretending like I still work for them. So luckily enough, because I had left that organization, I knew that was not my boss. Otherwise, in terms of profile pictures, in terms of punctuation and the way sentences were phrased and the way the request was made, it seemed like I was actually talking to my boss when I wasn't. It was an identity theft and a phishing attempt. Now, this story encapsulates the vulnerabilities we face today, from phishing to synthetic identities, from password fatigue to AI enhanced frauds that are evolving on a daily basis. As we move forward, it's clear that these threats are no longer hypothetical for sure. They strike at the heart of personal, corporate, and our national security. At this critical juncture, I'd like to give you a few facts. Just in the last year, Indian enterprises have seen a 73% occurrence of identity related breach, many fueled by compromised credentials and inadequate password practices. That is the very issue we are here to tackle. Also, attackers have grown smarter and faster. They're using AI to craft highly believable phishing campaigns like my ex boss, create deep fakes, and fabricate synthetic identities, turning human psychology against itself. One recent scam even saw an MNC's finance head targeted by AI generated deepfake video calls. And this has been all over the news, instructing fund transfers worth over 7 crore, a lot of which was sent, which exposes us to the vulnerabilities on both sides and the digital exclusion our country faces today. While the regulatory environment is evolving, maybe the negative side of it is evolving faster than the positive. The Digital Personal Data Protection Act and certain guidelines impose new responsibilities on enterprises to safeguard data, comply with breach notification, and strike a balance between security and agility. But cyber threats seem to be soaring much higher. At this stage, we gather here today as an exceptional panel of leaders from technology, from cybersecurity, from law, from privacy, and emerging AI governance. And I'd like to take a moment to introduce them to you. And as I say your name, I'd love for you to just raise your hand so the audience knows who we're talking to. Firstly, I'd like to start with Aparna Kumar, who's a founder, transformation, and future tech leader, a former CIO at SBI and HSBC. Secondly, I would like to go to Mr. Rajiv Nandwani, the Global Information Security Director at BCG. Sachin Kawalkar, Global CISO and Vice President at Neeyamo Enterprise Solutions. Satish Kumar, Global Chief Legal Officer at Intellect Design Arena. Sandesh Jadhav, Cyber Leader and Global Data Privacy Officer at Wipro. Nappinai, Senior Advocate at the Supreme Court of India. Rajiv Tripathi, Vice President Legal and FAA at GSTN. Very important government reference there. And last but not the least, Kamala Kannan Subramani, Director of IT Services at Zoho Corporation. Together, the things we'd like to explore today are how organizations protect employees and customers amid growing password fatigue and sprawling digital identities, how AI is reshaping attack surfaces and our defensive strategies to stop them, and what legal and governance frameworks are essential for resilience in this fast evolving landscape. Before we begin, I'd like to hand over this podium to Kamala from Zoho to introduce Zoho Vault, as well as tell us a little bit more about the the criticality of the risks we face today.
Yeah.
Kamala, over.
Good afternoon, everyone. So I'm Kamal. So been part of Zogo for past 20 years, and so watch many security events and incidents and dramas which have been going on for past 20 years. And so we have been in the name of security, we have been evolving evolved a lot. Say like from security being the second or third priority 2-3 decades back. Now security is the number one priority. So and safety is security. If you take so for example, people are okay even for a website to go down rather than going for a security breach. So if there is a security vulnerability, we are okay now to bring down the website rather than running it with a vulnerability. So that's how the security is been very important. And with the growing landscape and the growing data and IT landscape, security has grown a very big level with the with cloud computing and the cloud stuff bringing into a coming into a picture. And now people were thinking about the only password as a security. Now we are going to a world where even people are logging into their applications and other stuff without any password. So we are moving from a password-based security world to a passwordless authentication and other stuff. So that's the level of security we have been. And even that said, instead of passwords, we have been handling lot of security secrets and passphrases and API keys, which are very critical in terms of our protections. So we need to have better solutions to store that data. So and because cyber attacks has been happening right, left, and center. So by the time we are been discussing now for past 2 days, you know that in Europe, including London, Heathrow airport was down, and they are working on recovery due to a ransomware attack on applications which handles all the check-ins and all the airport softwares were being down. And not only that, and too many incidents are going on. So now with ransomware and other stuff increasing, the data breach is at higher level, and the amount of data which is being getting breached are very high. And so the recovery also becomes very difficult. So one of the European ISP who have been affected with the ransomware is still trying to recover. It's not recovered. I personally know them, and I have been discussing with them, and then so they are not able to open up their portal for their customer for past 1.5 months. So still, if a customer wants to do any upgrade, they are not able to do that. So the loss of not only data breach, it's losing their confidence on the customer, losing their confidence on the product, and they lose the continuous revenue. So yeah, usually Sridhar used to say one thing. So a company takes years to build the confidence, but one security breach will easily bring down a company. So that's the effect of security now we have in our environment. So with that said, with AI also adding up lot of things, and as you said, as Nimit said, now AI is, I mean, hackers and other attackers are getting smarter enough to pull in all the data using AI. So we used to share, we previously, if we want to do share any URL or any data, we just share like that. And with any unique URLs, we think that sharing a unique URL, people might not be able to find, and we are sharing only to the needed people. But with AI, in the recent Black Hat event, what they said is like oversharing is the one of the key reason for data being exploited. Because I mean, users might, or humans might find it difficult to crack the unique URLs, but these AI agents and AI stuff, which is getting smarter day by day, it's very easy for them. So oversharing of data is the one of the key reason for data being exploited. And with that said, whatever you want to store and whatever you want to share, it should be limited, and you need to be store only, share only to whatever people you want to share. And uh, coming to Zogo Vault, so what we have been doing with Zogo Vault is like we are providing a very good what key and secret storage system for the user. So if you say users to not to share a password or not to share a secret to another person, or to share a password securely to another employee when there is some mandatory need is there, and if that system is very difficult, they will obviously look for a easier system to share it. So if you want to, if your password sharing system is need another password, or if it is very difficult to handle it, those applications, they will easily try to share it via email, via chat or something. So main enemy for a security is complexity in a system. When a system is very complex, then people will find a easy method to do their job. So we need to have a very easier as well as a technically effective system to enhance the security. And so Zogo Vault is one of that kind of system where it's takes all those measures and security measures to store all those data in a secure manner, and as well as it's easier to collaborate with the organization and other employees. So, and easier to access, easier to share, at the same time it's very secure. So with that, I just end my thing.
Thank you so much, Kamal. Very well said. I think you covered a lot of key issues here today. You spoke about how people are getting smarter, cyber criminals are getting smarter. You also said about how technology is changing, and the last thing you said also is about regulatory framework. You also spoke about where we are in terms of our infrastructure to protect ourselves. And I think one very important thing that I will definitely personally take away from what you said is share less data. The less you share, the more you're protected. I think that that's a good rule of thumb in general. Uh, Before I go into the panel, I'd just like to caveat that the views expressed here by the panel, who are all working with very esteemed organizations, are those only of the panelists and their experiences and their expertise, and do not necessarily reflect the views of the organizations which they represent. With that said, I'd like to first ask everybody to talk about the three pillars of workforce and corporate security, which in my view are human behavior, technology, and policy. The question I'd like to ask you is, which one of these is the weakest link today? Where are we most vulnerable? And I open this to the panel.
I would like to take first. I feel that human pillar is the weakest link because all data breaches, security breaches happen because of human. I will say, put it this way, human pillar is the strongest link and is also the weakest link. That is how I'd like to put, because it is strongest because all the other pillars evolve around the human pillar. And because of the human pillar, there is a weakness also, in the sense that human beings sometimes are the weakest link because they contribute towards the data breach. They contribute towards the security breach. So it's one of the strongest as well as the weakest link, but I will say that the weaker link is bigger, because of which Today in the society, we are facing the major challenge of security breach. And as as we evolve, as AI evolves, we get more systematic way, more policy are drafted, and more procedures are drafted, and human are responsible for breach of these policies and procedures. We draft the policies and procedures so that everything falls in place. There is no threat, there is no risk of any breaches, but we contribute consciously or unconsciously, we contribute towards those breaches. So I would say that human link is one of the biggest weakest.
Very interesting dynamic playing out there, right? Because policy is generally chasing activity and it's not ahead of the criminal activity in general. And when policy comes into play, it usually establishes a very basic standard that everybody has to meet of certain levels of accountability, right? But criminals are smarter than that. Maybe at a private level, organizations do more on their own. Organizations that can afford to do more definitely do more, right? So policy, in my view, policy always lags behind. But yes, I'm going to move on. The Mr. Tripathi, you had your hand up. What do you think is the weakest link?
Yes, Namit, Satish ji has pretty much covered to open the tone or open the floor for the discussion. But I would also like to say, I mean, although I agree that yes, the human element or the human participation is the weakest link between humans, technology, and policy. Having said that, let us not forget that technology and policy are dependent on human ingenuity. And technology being an ever evolving thing, I mean, it can never, you will always find people getting around and finding the best loopholes in the best of technologies as well. I believe we face that day in, day out. Since we handle the technology part of GST portal, I mean, that's one thing. Having said that, policy needs to adapt the policy needs to bridge the gap. The work of the policy is only to bridge the gap between technology and to make the technology more adaptable for human needs in that sense.
Absolutely. And but before I jump to Aparna, I'd just like to add that
I'd like to
policy.
come in next minute. So yeah.
Sorry, go ahead. Aparna and Nappinai, I can both of you please go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the weakest link, Nimit, I feel isn't about human or tech alone, right? It's the misalignment of behavior, it's misalignment of policy, as well as innovation speed. And why I'm saying this is because there is always, it's the gap which is always going to remain. So technology advances rapidly, as we discussed in your opening statement, but policies often lag behind. Rightfully so, nothing wrong in that, but and hence people resist change. So to give you an example, in one of the institution I was working, we first rolled out the policy. So what happens is that when that is in place and you have the innovation running along with it, you are managing both the risks together. But there are times when it lags, right? And another example is for the front end, right? The adoption normally falters there. And one of the reason is because even if we are training them, it still lacks the basic behavior, because the basic behavior of human comes into the picture, right? Like you said that somebody told you 40,000 rupees, please, your ex-boss, and it happened. So that is something, as a mindset, it doesn't change immediately. So humans falter out there. And second example is another foreign bank. We had to do a data localization project, and there were like huge applications, hundreds of them, which were outside India. Now it was about aligning policy with tech readiness and human discipline. So when you look at the weakest link, these all play, they are all on the same playing field. It's about human, it's about tech, and it's about discipline. So they all fall on the same line,
Yep.
is what is my take.
Needs to be a tripartite take. Ms.
Tripartite.
Nappinai?
So one complements others. Without one, I mean, so one complementing will be others, and all the three are the main pillars. And so from my friend, so we need to treat all the three with the equal importance.
Absolutely. Miss Nappinai, you were saying something?
Yeah, I have been trying to say something for a while now. Anyway, Rajiv's input was a perfect segue for me. That's why I wanted to come in then. When you talk about a weakness or a strength, the first thing you need to understand is what weakness are you speaking about? Isn't it too generic and broad based to just say, oh, human is the weakest link, or XYZ is the weakest link, or for us to even place all three pillars on par? I think we need to first identify the problem statement there. And whilst identifying the problem statement, we also have to keep in mind the fact that human strength, as Satish mentioned, lies in something else also. The strength lies in their ability to circumvent whatever protective measures, whatever ring fencing that technology or policy would bring in. The human is even smarter to overcome that, to circumvent it, to find, and I would draw from Edwin Muir here, where he wrote a lovely poem, a very old one, about the wicked, wicked gate. You know, it takes millions to build your fortress. The technology protective measures may not be so expensive, but it still takes a lot of effort to build your policies. But it takes very little cost, very little effort sometimes because of the kind of technology enabled backdoors that you have to break into the strongest of fortresses. So I would want to place this word of caution out there that when you're talking about the weakest link, understand what you mean by it and the scope of it, and then figure out where is there a solution at all.
Understood. And I think just to maybe add a little more context to the question itself, the human behavior, I think in the context of this question is about how humans generally share their information from that sense, not from the criminality sense, where of course, but we're talking about how humans are careless with the way they interact with the internet and share their identity. Sachin, you were saying something.
I just wanted to, because we covered technology and everything. I guess the 2 cents which I wanted to add is the enforcement about the policies. See, a lot of organizations they define a very good governance model, a lot of policy process, everything they define. But how or what is their plan for the enforcement? And after enforcement, how the awareness to the people that this has been policies defined for you. Lot of the people, because of lack of awareness or maybe not understanding about what they exactly need to do, definitely it leads to the issue, that is leads to the problem and then incident, and ultimately we circle back again to the zero. So technology doesn't help here. So I guess the enforcement and the awareness about what you have done is something which I wanted to add.
So, Nimit, I would like to add, I
Yes.
think the numbers speak for themselves. I mean, when you see the numbers, about 70% of these breaches are happening because of humans, and technology-wise, it is only about 15 to 20%, and policy process is also 10 to 15%. So that way, if you will see, humans are the major weakness. The reason behind that is so many phishing attacks are taking place. Through social engineering, you are able to get these things easily done. And of course, insider threats. And I'm sure if someone is not happy in the organization, I mean, they can surely cause some problem while they are leaving out from the company. As far as technology is concerned, I mean, there are vulnerabilities which you need to fix. There are sometimes misconfigurations, and there are some companies which still are continuing with legacy systems in which you can have these additional vulnerabilities. So, rightly said that we need to have uh, good governance and good enforcement of policies to make sure that the technology as well as the human behavior can be improved. And I would say the response from employees and from the technology guys, that needs to improve, and they need to understand the cyber threats and how they can improve on the security aspects.
I just
Absolutely.
wanted to add one final word on this.
Please.
given the clarification that you gave after my intervention. See, often, especially when it comes to law, it works in such a way that it tries to protect the human from their own mistakes. It punishes also when you violate when you cross the line
Yeah.
and commit a crime. But if you look at the predominant approach of law or policy, it's meant to protect you from your own actions or inaction. And that is how technology is also built, to protect you from your own actions. So, here then, when you look at it as a weakest link, where would you place it? Human, of course, is a weak link in the broad systemic structure, but it may not necessarily be the only one. So, I would say that another way of looking at it would be strength may come from synergizing and evolving constantly.
That's actually a very interesting point. And I also believe that, like you said very rightly, that law generally protects you from your own mistakes as well. I think with the pace at which technology is growing today, the technological divide in our country is very large, right? And so is policy sort of today broad stroking all sorts of people into the same law, or is it looking at the large divide in sort of the technological intelligence in a country like India, the exposure and the experience that people have or lack in our country? And is it creating specific policy framework to address that each person's mistakes can also be looked at, and not just broad stroke make a standard that, this is the law. Now, if you don't understand this law, or if it may not apply to you generally, that too bad. So I think that's where the debate we might want to, leave it open-ended a little bit there. And I'd like to go into some specific questions if you all don't mind. I love how heated this got, to be honest. Aparna, I'd love to start with you. You're the first person on my screen, simply for that reason. Um, you've led technology at scale before in a couple of industries. How do you see the shift towards AI and automation affecting identity and workplace security, especially, in heavily regulated industries that you've worked with? Because clearly there's more focus, especially in our financial sector, to be honest. That's where most of the phishing is happening, right? Everyone wants the money. So when you move towards AI and automation, you use blockchain to protect people as well and to make their transactions more secure. But cyber criminals are using the same blockchain to sort of get that money from your account, to get the clearances they need to sort of dupe you. So where do you stand on that, and where do you see that going?
So, Nimit, let's understand that AI is the strongest ally for workforce. Okay. Normally, people would say that we have a divide. We have a division that people say AI is definitely going to is it a bubble, or is it going to be really going to take quite a strong place? And but it is also very important to understand that we build transparency, okay, accountability, and also trust, because that's going to be the DNA. Okay, when whatever said and done, unless until these three things are not there, which are very important in a financial institution, because today trust has actually is the currency in the bank. You gave that example, right? So when we look at financial services perspective, AI and automation are fundamentally reshaping the identity and the workforce security. And what I mean by that is that where I have led the transformation, the stakes are very, very high. Okay, because customer trust, and for BFSI, regulatory compliance and system stability, these are extremely critical, and rightfully so. So AI enhances identity protection through the behavioral biometrics, right? Anomaly detection and continuous authentication. So spotting patterns that human teams would never detect. But that's even if I understand that the criminal mindset or the hackers, they are 10 steps ahead of what we today as a technologist and policy makers are. But still, it is very important that the patterns with which they operate as a human, we are unable to identify it. So that is where the AI comes into the picture. And that is what we are trying to take advantage of it. In one of the banks, what we did was that AI-driven fraud detection, we implemented as a pilot. And trust me, it actually gave false positive by 30%, over 30%, which means that freeing up the human teams for a higher value of oversight. So from that perspective, the risk is equally real. The same AI models can be exploited to generate deep fakes. That's what is happening. Manipulate credentials or automate cyber attacks. But in heavily regulated industries like from where I come in, this duality means that AI must be deployed and is deployed with governance first principles. Okay. It also is important to have explainability, because why certain things have happened, you need to explain that. You can't just like that say, okay, this is what is the reason. I mean, this is how the data has come in. You need to know how and why. So explainability comes there. And also humans in the loop are some of the very key parameters which actually ensure. So the combination of this ensures for most of the financial institutions to safeguard customers' trust. So we are moving towards that. Humans will not be going, but AI is there to stay. So, and you can only ensure that it is being used positively is by a combination, as I mentioned earlier, human, technology, governance, policies, and transparency. And we do that in the financial institutions. Otherwise,
on this point, I'd love to bring the lawyers in the group into the conversation here. Rajiv, Satish, and Miss Nappinai. I'd love to know from you, when we speak about something we can't control, right? Like blockchain, for example, and like Aparna said, AI is here to stay. It's not like we can ignore it anymore. But in the past, we've seen examples where, for example, with online gaming, where regulation became impossible, we sort of said that, let's say no to this altogether, right? Now, I'm not talking about that, and there were a lot of other reasons for that. But generally, do we essentially look to build infrastructure to regulate something at a level, at the speed at which AI is growing and the penetration with which it has? Or do we sort of at one point then be like, no, let's ban certain things so it's easier to regulate them? As a lawyer, what would be the approach that would be most prudent here to take with the growth of AI?
I would take this question, Nimit. So I would say that you should not regulate AI. It is how you use AI. It is like giving a AK-47 to a soldier. The soldier will defend the country. The same AK-47, if it gets into the hands of a person or an antisocial element, that will be used in a negative sense. So I see AI in exactly the same way. If you use AI properly, it will be to the advantage of the society. Today, AI is used in medical industry. Medical industry has revolutionized. 10 years back, we don't see a surgery happening in, say, Czechoslovakia being done by a doctor in India.
Yeah, no,
Today, it is
absolutely. I
possible.
agree with the point that there is good and bad, but because there is also bad, is there a tendency to over-regulate or ban because we can't control the bad, or do we need to build infrastructure to make to regulate this better? That is, I think, what I'm getting at.
Yeah, so I would
So,
say
Ms.
that.
Nappinai, would you like?
Yeah.
So, go ahead, Satish.
Yeah, I would say that you should build a infrastructure so that AI is used properly rather than let it go free and go berserk. So I
Yeah.
feel that it should be regulated properly rather than curtailing the speed of AI. That is my take.
Thank you, Ms. Nappinai, and then we'll go to Sandesh.
Yeah. So I was trying to say that, when I think you're actually talking about the situation that happened with respect to other technologies, as you had mentioned earlier, in terms of do we regulate at all or just say off with their heads, right?
Yeah.
Cryptocurrency is a classic example of it,
Yeah.
which you were, I think, trying to advert to. See, when it comes to AI, it has a much wider spectrum in terms of cryptocurrency was a product or an outcome. Blockchain was the technology, and we needed, if at all, a regulation, we needed it for blockchain as a technology. So today, when we are talking about AI, and you have rightly said, use or misuse are just two sides of the same coin. So then, when you're talking about regulation, you have two possible approaches. One is a risk-based approach, which may go with respect to how and in what manner AI is being put to use for. But there is another one too, which is accountability-based. So when it comes to accountability based, then that becomes more of a regulation in terms of compliance frameworks. And invariably, if you look at how standards are formed, that's typically a compliance framework, and the subsequent processes that follow through, the procedures that you have to implement if you are an industry in the AI field, and only lastly, we come to the outcome of AI. So we may not be able to have a one size fits all law or policy for any technology. And secondly, it would be extremely myopic if we start thinking that we need to address the problems of today with law. Because law by itself, including the framing of the law, is glacial. So it's not going to happen overnight. You start a process thinking these are the problems that I need to face today. By the time the law comes out, they have become irrelevant, right? It's going to be a year down the line at least. So we need to have forward-looking laws. We need to have dynamism in the process of lawmaking. And we have to ensure that the law that you're proposing today is to a substantial extent technology agnostic, but it understands it is with respect to technology, and it addresses both the accountability aspect as well as the risk-based aspect, and maybe a few other check boxes also that we may have to tick. It seems like such a big ask, but several hundred years back, I'm saying literally 160 years back, if I can put a number to it, if law could have been drafted in such a beautiful way that it was relevant today, please go back and look at the definition of the word document. It is relevant till
Very
just
fair
without
point.
needing an amendment. So if we can have laws like that evolve a century plus back, why can't we do it now? Right? So we should
Absolutely.
really endeavor towards that.
And people say that the DPDP Act has already become outdated before it's even been enforced. So
Well, it shouldn't. Well, that is defying even glacial speeds. It shouldn't take 2 years to implement.
Sandesh,
Yeah.
you raised your hand.
Yeah, so see, law is there. Huh? Who is going to abide the law? We, the people are going to abide to the law. I will give you layman's example. If, if you want to drive at a highway and then there is a rule, law says please wear a belt, huh? Please wear a seat belt. But are we going to abide to the speed limit also, which is not part of the checklist? If the roads are wet, if there is a monsoon, are we going to lower the speed? I mean, though it's written, if you pass on by Samruddhi Highway, the speed limit is 120, 140. But if it's raining, the law says 140. Do I need to drive at 140? So, in the similar way, the AI checklist are there. EU AI Act is there. The AI governance framework is there. Our Indian government is also working on Indian AI mission. They have come up with a set of rules, a set of framework. But who is going to abide that? Whenever I am implementing any AI ML model, or whenever I am giving my data to process to any of my business partner or third party, what are the laws I'm abiding to? Am I just working in ambient of EU AI Act? What about the geopolitical risk? We all seen that what happens to Naira Energy. They have implemented all technology, all processes. The people were trained enough, but still, we ourselves have become inaccessible to our own data. Why? Because of this geopolitical risk situation arises, and Microsoft has blocked entire data of Naira Energy. So we need to take care of this all aspect that whenever I'm going to run any AI infused software or any AI model I'm going to design, I'm going to make sure that AI model is has to be security free. So there are new security standards which are already in market, like top 10 OAPs for LLM and Gen AI. Now, apart from this, there are IEEE standard, NIC standard. Now, no one is going to talk about it. Vendors or business partners are just behind selling this new word, or we ourselves are the technology company. Previously, also I used to work in technology company. Customer are saying, whenever you are giving us, give me this solution to address my this particular problem statement, please include AI. Now, in just order to address that AI as a word, in order to encash that term of AI, we put up slightly smaller Python code and all. But what about if that Python code is having any vulnerabilities, or if it is having bias, or if it is having hallucination, or if it is any processing PI data, and when those PI data is going to get deleted, are there any retention timeline? So transparency is the thing, explainability is the thing. So my AI model should be explainable, it should be transparent, it shouldn't act as a black box. I should know what going behind that AI model, how my data is getting processed, how that outcome I have arrived. Like, is there any biasness, or is testing has to be done on two level. One is like for the governance or for the functionality, and is one and the third one is for the security. So every AI model, the AI impact assessment has to be carried out. Now, when we talk about AI, it's not only the structure of that Python
If I
code
may
we
just,
are going to assess.
if I may just cut you off that, I think our
Yeah.
audience would like to know who's responsible for this. Is it the company making the algorithm, is putting down the code and making the AI? So who is responsible for this accountability? Who is to make sure that this AI impact assessment is done, and who needs to check that everything is transparent? And if an information requirement is there, who's responsible for this?
So,
So this is a very good question. So matter is already sub judice to the code. So suppose I am making the code, I'm the technology company. I am making the code and I'm giving to one of my customer. Customer is learning. For example, bank. I have designed some chatbot, I have designed some AI model, I have given that to one bank. Now who is collecting data? Bank is collecting data. Now who is processing the data? Bank is processing the means this kind of data. So the bank is also responsible. Why? Because they are using it. The manufacturer, again, I will give this same layman's example of the car. The car manufacturer is there, who has to manufacture a car which is error free. Now once he sold car to you, now Nimit is going to drive the car. Now who is going to responsible? Nimit is going to responsible because he has to draw this car cautiously. But if he is driving the car on some, like, on dark road, and there are no signage for turns or speed breakers, or there is a heavy rain, then who is going to responsible? The RTO, the MMRDA. So this is the entire is the ecosystem. So whole lot of people, like, the one who is going to manufacture the code, the one who is going to write the code, the one who is going to use the code, the one who is going to retain or store the code. For example, the cloud service providers, they are storing the code, even they are responsible. And the ultimately the end user, they should know that where this code coming from, or shall I really use this, like, I don't know with whom I'm talking. Like, if now if you want to put talk to any chatbot, I will give you just a recent example, and I will close my like, what I have to say. There is a recent example, one of the ACO, like, we were returning back from one of the cybersecurity conclave, and one of our colleague has lost the wallet. So we were on the airport. We went on the Google and put up the name of that very like, well-known that five-star hotel. And the ACO has been designed such that the fake website has come and their contact number has come. And now after seeing that contact number, like, my friend has dialed that number. He asked, "Is the wallet is there?" He said, "Yes, wallet is there." "Which color is this?" He said, "Brown." "Oh, yes, sir. My brown wallet is there. The brown wallet is there. I will return back that wallet to you." So he said, "But I have already crossed the security check line." So he said, "No, no. I will. My person will come till security check line." So the end user should be alert enough. Like, he should know that how come that hotel person, the courier guy, or this, like, the boy who can come and cross the security line and going to return the wallet. And then he asks that, "Can you, sir, we need to pay the 100 rupees. The invoice needs to be generated and it has to be credit card." So my friend said, "Okay, there might be a hotel rules, like, but he said, I will give him, instead of 100, I will give him cash of 200 rupees." But he said, "No, sir, I want the invoice needs to be generated on credit card only." And then he was asking credit card, he was asking CVV number, he was asking OTP. Then my friend realized there something fishy is going on. So even end user, whenever he's going to talk to chatbot, he don't know whether it's a correct, like, for example, ICICI Bank. IC1bank.com. It's a fake, similar sounding domain. So even end user should be alert enough that to whom he is talking through the chatbots and all. So wherever it's a possible, give your minimum data. Data minimization is a thing, and whenever it's possible, make sure your manager or the authentic ICICI number or authentic any bank number. So please call out on that number. So it's responsible to answer your question. Responsibility of data subject, that is end user, the
And
manufacturer, the data
that point
processor, and
actually,
business partner.
on the point of data end user, actually, I want to bring in Mr. Tripathi here. From a government enterprise perspective, you deal with the most diverse user base, right, in the country. What is unique to the workforce identity challenges that you face when you deliver on such a large and diverse scale? And what are the biggest challenges and what are the sort of solutions you look at?
There are two aspects to it, Nimit. One is that how do we manage the password or manage the data of our workforce? So to tell you on that aspect, we are a very small company. I mean, of around 250, although we are onboarding employees now, so it's not going to go beyond 250 to 300. So in that sense, managing the data, workforce data is comparatively easier for us. I mean, we have the necessary checks and balances and the regular practices that we follow. I mean, multi-factor authentication, the necessary firewalls, and likewise, all these things are concerned. As far as managing the data of our users are concerned, I mean, we are critical infrastructure. That is a challenge. That is certainly a challenge for us. Though we have a defined SOP, we have the guidelines from MITI guidelines, we have certain guidelines that we have to follow. We also take assistance from our tech partners in ensuring that we do have advisories, because there is only a level to which we can exert our the rules and regulations. Ultimately, it lies down to the end user, because our portals, I mean, if just to give you a very brief idea, the portal works in two ways. There is a back-end model and there is a front-end model. The back-end model is accessed by the officer, the tax officers, and the front-end model is accessed by the taxpayers. So the checks and balances for the front-end model are different. We have to differentiate that, and the checks and balances for the back-end model, which are accessed by the tax officials, are different. So I mean, and the advisories are different for both these people. From just to give you an instance, as far as the tax officials are concerned, we have to regularly train these people. There's a regular training program that is undertaken. How do they manage? How do they have to manage the data? How do they have to manage the signatures? I mean, we do face, as I said, the technology is ever evolving. We do get suggestions and change requests time and again from the commissioners as well. What are the challenges that they are facing? We try to create solutions for that, and the concerned teams are always on the workaround for that. Training, the constant training of the workforce in that sense is absolutely necessary, absolutely pertinent, to keep them abreast with the latest technological developments, the latest developments that we are imposing. Multi-factor authentication is one of the things that we are using very strongly. I mean, which not only uses username, password, OTP. In fact, for the tax officials, we are also using a unique QR code for the tax officials, which are in the implementation stage. Most of it are already implemented. So these are just one of the few examples. As far as managing the data or guiding or educating the taxpayers are concerned, the only way we are able to do is by way of advisories and learning materials that we upload on our portals. That's it.
Is bureaucratic decision making keeping abreast with the pace of cyber crime today generally?
that's that's an easy and a difficult question to answer at the same time. Easy to say yes. I mean, we have been given a lot of freedom. We have an in-house intelligence network to keep a check on these things. We have some very good tech partners. we have, there are a lot of layers to it. So we do have fantastic tech partners in Infosys and Tech Mahindra. We have collaborated with MapMy India. So there are a lot of checks and balances in play. We are keeping pace with it, but yes, we do face.
Fair enough. Even private companies aren't able to keep pace with it right now. So.
Absolutely.
Government is supposed to be more balanced and more careful than them.
The only lucky thing that I feel, we have been generous enough to get a clean hand and a free hand from the government in that sense, as far as data security is concerned.
I think that's an excellent point. From there, I'd like to move to a private organization. Sachin, I'd like to address this question to you. Of course, innovation is necessary. Productivity is important, right, when you're dealing with employees, but also a strict identity control, especially at larger organizations. So I'd actually like to address this question to Sachin and Mr. Nandwani. I'm saying because we have two Rajivs on the panel, I'm going to address you by your last name. So to both of you, actually, how do you, from Mr. Nandwani's perspective, when you deal with, your clients as a consultancy, what are the sort of best practices you put in place for them, especially across geographies and across risk appetites? And Sachin, for you, how do you balance that user productivity with identity controls? Are people always feeling like, hey, I don't want to work here anymore because there is too much security that I have to go through?
Yeah. Oh, okay. So I will go first. I guess there is no exception for this because this is the utmost layer wherein you are getting. It is just like you are getting a license to drive your vehicle. So you are getting authorized, you are getting authenticated, and only after you are coming inside the environment to do your job. So there is no exception for this rule. It is a universal rule which has to be followed for anyone who wanted to access the data. Now, the only problem is because of the digitalization, because of the people, a lot of typically sales, marketing, or the corporate communications roaming across the world, creating their business values and the needs. Sometimes they also need to access the environment, maybe some core critical assets or components of the environment, and wherein it should be a business enabler, not like a hurdle for them to stop and then present. So we have to understand that as well. The second thing is lot of companies, they have the consultants or maybe sometime they're contractors or third parties who are supporting their business for some reason, for technology reason. So we need to understand that as well, that how they will come inside and do that. So lot of considering all these risk factors because they are coming from the outside environment and then accessing your core boxes of your environment. So we need to understand that, and for which we need to deploy a very stringent rule base. First is, as I already mentioned, there has to be a stringent policy of how the access has to be given, to whom the access has to be given, and what is the methodology of that access has to be given. So depending upon the crown jewels wherein you are allowing them to access those boxes, you need to enable that so that you are preparing the layer security approach. And there are multiple things which are available: identity access management and privilege access management, PIM-PAM, and there are so many like CIAM, like customer identity and access management. And as Rajiv has mentioned, the multi-factor authentication or single sign-ons. So these layers can be built so that and then yes, obviously the new jargon which is your zero trust network architecture. I guess probably Aparna also mentioned about.
But does it often become too burdensome? I mean, just does it become too burdensome on the
If it
employee?
goes in a very structured way, and once people becomes the habitual of that, they understand the value of it. Because rather than we exposing the boxes, they understand that I am accessing something critical, and the access is very privileged or supreme access. I am doing some critical job for which I only get blamed if it is hacked. So I need to take care of it, and for which I need to manage or I need to follow the process. I don't think so. It is, and again mentioning the same thing. It's an enforcement. Sometimes people feel no, why I need to take a OTP where I don't have a mobile, I don't have this, why I should do this. But I guess this is the only way to have the layered security approach to protect your assets.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you.
think I think the zero trust, it may be a new jargon, but I mean it has been used for a very long time. I mean you give access of what is required and not for everything. So I mean it is key these days because there are so many people joining from various locations, heterogeneous environments. like he correctly said, there are a lot of contractors also who are accessing your sites, and also it becomes very important that you are first setting up the zero trust framework, and secondly, you are also setting up the data leakage prevention. I think they both go hand in hand. So if you have set up a good zero trust and a good data leakage, I think in between you have to ensure all the policies, etc., are rolled out, and you are controlling the complete environment, and multi-factor authentication, etc., would make sure that everyone is accessing only things that they are supposed to access. And if there are any insider threats or any phishing attempts or malwares, those can be also controlled through all these layers, I would say.
I'd love to bring Kamal as well as the other CISOs in here. The important point where I think establishing here is broadly what Mr. Nandwani said is the framework is we need a zero trust policy as well as a data leakage policy. Does that stand at a good point?
Yes.
Is that a good place to sort of start at least, or is there more? Are there more layers beyond what has been addressed here? Yeah.
So now zero trust is being looked at the overall SASE layer. So the as a framework is concerned, now we are calling and speaking about the SASE framework. Within that, zero trust is one of the part of SASE. So with that and DLP, everything is a combination where everything is getting bundled. As a one product now, and if you look at the OEMs, multiple OEMs are bundling it and giving that as a one product. So from what Sachin and Nandwani said, I look at the problems what we face is like with the user is like when you implement a solution, new solution, it's not the problem is not with the solution, it's a problem with how you implement it. If the user is the solution is very easy to use. For example, if you take zero trust, so we have to show how easy it is to connect your internal resources using a zero trust solution rather than your old VPN solution. So if you explain those difference and the implementation will be very easier, the acceptance of the user will be very easier. So these solutions should be implemented in a way where it is very easy and it's seamless. So, if you look at the zero trust, simply one agent will be running at a laptop and it will be taking care of everything. And you need not, user will not know whether they are sitting inside a office in a internal network or outer network. Everything will be seamless. If you give that seamless feel, then acceptance level will be very high and user will follow whatever policy you will be implementing it. And as you ask, zero trust and SASE and DLP will be a starting point. But before that, and Sachin, I think he touched upon the privilege access management also. So the user, we need to look, and the IT administrator also look at the carefully about the users who's having higher privileges and users having a lesser privileges, and you need to treat the privileged people in a different way, and we need to have a proper solution to give them access to a privileged setup on data centers kind of environment. If they have access, we need to treat that. And nowadays security not only comes it's not about only prevention and detection. We need to have a solution to respond and recover also. So recovery is also a problem. So we need to have effective measures to monitor these privileged access users also. So if we have those monitoring systems in place, then you can very well look at what's happening and other stuff. So the starting is like you can start with DLP, zero trust, and SASE and other stuff, and slowly you can onboard all the privileged access management, and followed by and effective SIM monitoring. And this is everything can be, it's a combined solution. At this is at the back end. For the users, it should be seamless. It should be easier for them. And so rather than, for example, from the browser, right from the browser, you need to have control and you need to have prevention from access, whatever access they take. And right from the control, you need to have a monitoring and other stuff. So, but in a seamless way. So that's what, this is where the technology and the product comes into picture. If the technology is so good, you can easily implement the process and you can make the people to accept it and use it. So that's
Sure.
the
Take that point. I'm coming to the lawyers in just a minute, but just before I bring them in, Aparna, I'd like to know from you if you could paint us a picture of the future of what protective measures for an organization look like from an information perspective, especially from all the phishing attempts and the data leakages, as Rajiv also mentioned that we've seen today. I want to, if you could paint us a picture for the future as to what protection is going to look like in the future, how it's going to be seamless, or if it's going to be more challenging or completely futuristic and sci-fi as well. I'd love your take on that.
Sure, Nimit. So there are actually three lessons I would like to highlight from my experience and journey across banks. The first and foremost is about aligning people, policy, and technology. Why? Because as we mentioned, none of them are the weakest links alone, right? It's just the misalignment. So workforce security will succeed when there is a behavioral training, okay, and the framework, regulatory framework, and the advanced tools, they are in unison. So that is one which it has started, but in future it is going to be much more stronger because it's a combination of these three very, very critical parameters on which the organization is based and subsequently the security. Second part is about adoption of hybrid security models, adaptive security models. So passwordless, we have started, right, some time back. I won't say that it's a new stuff. We have started passwordless, but what happens is that it is going to coexist with multi-factor authentication. So even if we are talking about future passwordless, there is still going to be a human element which will come into, always will stay into the picture. Because let's understand the psyche of human being. Still, even if there is today, cars which drive without drivers, automate, right? But a human still is not comfortable in spite of everything which is available to him, which is not tangible, right? Because it's not in its control. It needs, human being needs control, which is not there. So that is second thing which I feel that future proofing will mean planning for hybrid realities and not chasing the silver bullets alone. And third one is I feel embed AI with explainability. I'm sorry, I'm coming back to explainability because without that, the trust will be gone. You will not be trusted if you don't know and you can't prove what you are, putting it on the table. So deploying AI for compliance flagged anomalies instantly, right? But the auditors, rightfully so, will ask why. So the future, we will move forward, but there are certain boundaries, there are certain guardrails, there is a ring fencing which is being rightfully done by the risk compliance regulators out there who believe in that. And so future proof security will hinge on explainability as much as it does on effectiveness. So to future proof workforce security, let's not just only involved in stronger tools. And that's what we do in the banks. We have also moved. Earlier, it was like you have the best of the tools and then, you can do things. But we also have moved that not just in investing stronger tools, we need to invest into the cultural change. We need to invest in the agility. We need to invest in the alignment, because whatever or however enforcement we do, which is a must have, right? But if there is no alignment with what you are trying to propose or what you are trying to implement, there is bound to be much more failure than success. So when you move on the futuristic path, you need to consider all these aspects. And I'm not saying it's going to be 100%. Please trust me. Nothing, even we humans are not 100%, in anything we do. But I think to reach even to that 60, 70, 80%, these things are going to play a very, very critical role, and not just the technology. That's my take, what I have seen or
Word to the wise. And ironically, I'm going to be using AI to understand explainability a little more after this.
I'm sorry.
But no, before I go into my last segment, where I'm going to start with the lawyers and understand how organizations can protect against data leakages, AI-driven theft and poor identity practices that happen. I just wanted to, we're going to do a Q&A section after this. So in the audience, if you have your questions, start dropping them in now. And you can address them to a particular panelist if you like. Otherwise, I will open them to the entire panel. And now I want to speak to the in-house counsel as well as the practicing counsel here, Ms. Nappinai and Satish, both of you. From an organizational perspective, despite the kind of guardrails we can build, as Rajiv, Kamal, and Aparna have pointed out, that there are two, and organizations are growing, as well as Mr. Tripathi also earlier sort of hinted at how the government is working. There is going to be breach. There is going to be leak. A lot of it, maybe even the company has the right compliances in place, but there's still going to be breaches. There's going to be identity theft. There's going to be loss. How does an organization protect itself legally from this, both from a compliance perspective as well as from a litigation perspective? I'll leave it to whoever wants to take it first.
Yeah, I would like to take it first. From the organization perspective, both for data breach and compliance, first is you need to have a proper training session for all the associates. It is critical. How you train your associates, how you train your employees. Number two, legal counsels, in-house legal counsels especially, should coordinate with this security team on drafting a very secured policy or procedure for in-house on how data should be maintained, who all should have access to the data. This is very critical. That is number two. And the third, which is not the least, is in-house, we should have proper insurance policies, whether it be E&O policy, errors and omission policy as we call, or D&O policies. We should have proper insurance policy to mitigate the risk for these breaches. This is a high level that I would like to highlight right now.
Awesome. Ms. Nappinai, can I pass that over to you?
Yes, so I was just fixing my mic. Is my audio better?
Absolutely, we can hear you clearly.
Yeah, because I just saw the chat and it mentioned this. See,
A little too clear.
I'm sorry?
A little too clearly we can
I
hear
hope the response is also equally more clear. Because whenever you ask a question of a lawyer, our response is usually, it depends. We cannot answer you in black and white. We live in the world of gray. So here it is. When we talk about liability, there are different kinds of liability. You have strict liability, you have contributory liability, you have liability which is nuanced in terms of your contractual liability. So and you have statutory liability too, right? So you have different kinds, and you will have to prepare yourself based on what is the risk factor that you're trying to militate against. And Nimit, keep in mind, we are lawyers. The same response, if you are sitting across the table in my office, may be a fairly expensive
Yeah.
input, right? So we'll try to give as much guidance as possible here, given the time constraint too. But these are really critical aspects. One is what has already been pointed out by Satish in terms of insurance and see, because as you rightly pointed out, that things may go wrong is something you have to take as a certainty. How it will go wrong is something that you may not be able to predict. And where do you stand when it goes wrong becomes the criticality. You know, the first and foremost thing we always say, right? Preventing, protecting, and then resilience is always the third criticality when we talk about cybersecurity. And the last and the least probably adopted is prosecution. So laws may provide for certain provisions which may be criminal liability too, but on the assumption that it will act as a deterrence. We're not always looking to prosecute somebody, it may just be more of a deterrence. But resilience is critical. The sooner you're able to bounce back, the sooner you protect your customers against data breach, the sooner you can revive services, the sooner you can minimize losses. That will play a very critical role in terms of how the liability seesaw will swing in or against you, in your favor or against you, that is.
Yeah.
So you need to take into account the industry you're associated with. Where are the risks and threat elements? To what extent can you put in safety measures? And the safety measures have to be properly documented. And where do you show that it was in spite of your efforts and not because of gaps in your effort that a violation, a breach, or a loss has occurred? And that's how you make sure that you don't suffer loss or you can reduce the loss factor.
Perfect. I think we got both perspectives there, from an in-house lawyer and from a practicing lawyer. So I think that's a good place to stop. I'm still waiting for a few questions to come in, but I would love to play this with you, where all of you tell me whether you think AI is an ally or a threat. Now, I'd like you to first tell me the answer in one word before you explain. And I'm going to start here with how it's coming up on my screen with Sandesh. I'd love for you to tell me, in the context of workplace security today, is AI an ally or a threat? Please give me the one-word answer and then like a 1-minute explanation.
It's an ally. Of course, AI is going to be ally because the way AI using AI tool, the intruder is want to get into my system is like the number of say for example DDoS attack. Okay, it's getting initiated by sending the repetitive packets. Now, if AI is initiating something like that, or my SQL injection means kind of attack, so to counter it, we need to use the AI systems. Okay, like my false positives must be there must be large number of false positives. So in order to reduce my large number of false positive, I have to go through AI. So AI is not like something like a new technology. It's completely shift. It's completely revolution. So using AI system, I can narrow down the where the threat is coming on. I can do my patching very well. I can stop my leakage protection or my leakage prevention policies or frameworks very well. So AI is certainly going to be my ally. And
Okay.
if you say AI is a threat, if
No,
if
no, no,
if you
no, no.
will
You
say
can't
that
do
AI
that.
is a threat,
That's the rule of the game. That's the rule of the game. You can't give us
okay, okay,
answers. I
okay,
take your point. I'll
yeah,
move
yeah.
this to Mr. Tripathi. Mr. Tripathi, give me a one-word answer and then a short explanation.
Uh, yes, I would love to consider it as an ally, but
Hmm.
we would, uh, from my organization's perspective or from a government perspective, we would like to tread cautiously how we take it ahead as an ally. I mean, to what extent, what liberties are given to it, how do we incorporate it in our existing frameworks is something that needs to be figured out. Uh, from GSTN perspective, we have already started discussions on it, and on a very limited basis.
I can sense you hedging very fast here. So I'm going to ask you whether you're going to say ally or you're going to say threat today.
There are no clear answers from my end for today.
Okay. I'll leave it to you since you're the government and you can't do this. But Sachin, I'll put this to you then. Ally or threat, one word, and you get a minute to explain.
See, it's ally definitely because it is going to use on the data sets, and definitely whenever you use the volume of data sets, it creates a meaningful outcome. That outcome will be helpful for you as a business enabler to enhance your business.
Okay, perfect. I love that. I love that answer. And now in any order, anybody like to take it up,
No,
please?
but Nimit, it cannot be one of them. I'm sorry. It
Has
will
to
be
be both.
always both. Yeah, so that yes, no doesn't exist for
Of
something
course,
like
no,
AI.
I completely appreciate the point. I'm just saying today, if you had to take one position as a
Yeah,
game, I'd love to
yeah.
know because I'd love people to get both sides of the view that exist here today. That is my outcome.
No. So it is an ally. Okay, let's look at from that perspective. It's an ally. There's no two ways about it. But again, if it is being done or used with accountability and with compliance. And the reason being, as earlier anecdote I gave about the false positive, right? AI is definitely going to assist almost in all industries, but we in financial industries really looking at it to build our customer trust much more than what we are or where we are today. And for that, if you look, AI models can be, weaponized also. But on the other side, positive side, we are using it to also have the fraud detection earlier, right? We are using AI to also not eliminate human completely, but to assist. So the biggest positive of of AI being ally is that it is not completely eliminating human. It is assisting. It's a partner to the human to make it work more productively as well as with lot more insights. So that's my limited answer for AI being ally.
Sajin, you have your hand up, so I'll give it to you. But
Yeah,
if any,
actually, in the interest of time, quickly, I will just mention since as European the entity has established the AI standard, I guess enforcement about that or maybe some regulation which will definitely help these loosely coupled components wherein the AI data is getting misused. If that is coming, then definitely AI is going to become a big game changer in future.
awesome. Anybody
Nimit,
else?
In
when
corporate,
you
corporate
said one
sector,
word, so I was very tempted to just drop the it and say depends,
I
but
mean, as a lawyer, I would have expected nothing less.
yes. But let me play a different kind of lawyer role here when I say ally. We tend to
I would love for you to play the devil's advocate, though.
I'm playing the devil here also when I say ally here because we are always, when the positive word is used, we automatically assume the positive connotation. And ally is always about a person who's a friend, who's a facilitator, who can make things easier for you. Let's not forget that that ally can then be an ally for a criminal too. So why do we assume that an ally is only for the positive elements? So I would play not just the devil's advocate here, and that's why I said the devil too here. When I say that from a criminal's perspective, AI is an ally for them too. From the user perspective, it's an ally. From anybody who wants some kind of a benefit out of it, it can be an ally. But that it is an ally to the bad elements too is what we keep in mind when we work around guardrails.
I
Brilliant.
think the lawmakers, the lawbreakers are always ahead of lawmakers. So I think that is what she wants to say that it's, I mean, it's alive for most of us, but then it is alive for the bad, this also. I would say that, see, the expense happening by end of 2025 on AI is going to be about $1.5 trillion as predicted by Gartner. And by end of 2025, you're not going to get the revenue which is going to exceed that expense. It is only going to be in 2026, 2027 when you will be generating a revenue of $2 trillion. So very important that at this time, I mean, everyone is investing heavily into AI because it's going to be an ally. And I'm sure in the coming years, it will be more than the break even will happen and the revenue will go up considerably. It will go 3 times, 5 times, 10 times over the next 10 years, I would say.
Awesome. I have a couple of questions before we end. So one question that's coming, there's no name here, but it's a very interesting question. Rajiv, if I maybe just ask this question and then we'll come back to that. The question is very interesting. It says that in today's cross-border world, a lot of organizations have to deal with multiple jurisdictions, have to deal with multiple standards. Is there work going on a global standard, because the threat itself is global? It doesn't necessarily come from your jurisdiction, right? The threat itself is global. Is there a standard, or is the globe working on a standard today to set a multinational response to workplace security threats? Anybody'd like to take that?
Yeah, absolutely. Why, if you look at what ITU is doing itself, that's what it does. It creates harmonized standards. You may have jurisdiction-based standards, but you also have the templates or the model standards. Similarly, law also works in the same way. If you go back in time a little bit, if you see how law evolved in terms of treaties, what we call soft laws, wherever there was a need to harmonize across multiple jurisdictions for cross-border transactions, be it early days of ships going back and forth, merchant, interactions, be it in terms of even arbitration, which involved again businesses needing to resolve their problems across borders, you always had model laws evolving, or you had treaties which laid down the basis which will be then adapted into municipal laws. That is the right way forward, and yes, we should look forward to not just standards but also harmonizing of laws.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Okay. To take that question from my end, I would say that given the socio-political structure that we are in right now, no individual country or no individual jurisdiction can live in isolation. So there is bound to. I mean, there are multiple state businesses. You have cross-border litigation. You have cross-border arbitration, execution of awards. So you are bound to have. If not now, there is bound to come a stage where you are bound to have. You will be required to have some unified standards.
Yeah, absolutely. But that's the thing, right? It's tough in today's world to do unified standards.
Yeah.
Another
So
question that
and purposely no one like especially the developed country, they don't want to do this, because if you have seen during GDPR when new SEC has come, they have come up with a list of adequate countries. So they want to emphasize on that we are something different, and there is only 14 countries where we are going to transfer data without signing the new SEC agreement. So we also have to consider this geopolitical risk angle to it. The advanced country, they never want to do you transfer data to me and I am transferring data to you is going to be the same. They are never going to accept that. So they always want to make a point that we are something different. If you know, before Brexit, the GDPR used to be a common for UK, Ireland and EU region, for the Europe region.
yeah.
After Brexit, UK made the point that I am different, and they have come up with a UK IDTA standard. So this is never going to happen. At least between a developed country and developing country, the laws are always going to remain the separate. But the good thing is, if you take say the list of the checklist of 50 pointers, the 40 pointers are common, like data minimization, data deletion and all. Only there is a delta change, and that delta also change country to country and sector to sector. Like for financial there will be different rule, for aviation there will be different rule. So I don't think there is going to be a common law soon.
Very interesting and very realistic take as well.
Yeah.
Another question that's actually coming in, a couple of people have asked this, actually, is what is the future of passwords? I'd maybe start with our Zoho representative to answer this first, but are we going passwordless? Do we have AI human in the loop intervention when it comes to employee security? What is the future of passwords?
Yeah, so as everyone speaks about passwordless thing, Yeah, obviously, password will be replaced with the alternate mode of authentication. So authentication will be there, but the mode and the interpretation of the password will be changed. At the back end, still somewhere as a secret password will be there, but it will be in the form of passphrases as passcodes, which is protecting your identity. Passcodes will be there, but on the day-to-day operation or day-to-day usage, the password, the times, how many times you are using the password will get minimized. And coming to the AI thing, and so AI will be the agentic AI things will become will become a real thing where it is going to get the things for you to done, but the authentication for those things will be still will be in the form of API codes and API passphrases will be there. And you will be handling as an end user, you might not be handling so many passwords and so many things, but
I hope not.
at the back end, there will be a lot of API keys and API and the service to service access keys. So those will be there, and all this AI agent and AI stuff will be speaking to one another. And for that, a lot of authentication and the passphrase, those things will be there. So those will be there, but at the for the end user, it will be seamless. It will be all will be SSO, single sign-on. And so maybe in future, if you open a laptop, you will be able to log into your application seamlessly, and will be able to access all the applications seamlessly. You will not be there. But one thing is, if you you need to be in compliant with the your organization process, or if they want you to download some past backup codes, and if you have some procedure, you need to ensure you need to follow that, or else a single leak might end up in a problem. But or else, so everything passwords will be soon replaced with various modes of passwordless authentication for a front for a user perspective. At
Thank
back
you.
end, the story will be different. Yeah.
So last question that I'm going to take, and this is for the CISOs and the information people, it looks like to me. They ask that for a smaller company that's just looking, that maybe doesn't have the funding required to build the right infrastructure, what are the sort of best practices they can do? They have a tech, they have tech-enabled software, a lot of them. So they have these security risks, but they may not have the funding to set up the infrastructure that may be required. So if the CISOs and the information people in this room can sort of guide them as to what are the small things that they can do, or the
Yeah,
cheaper things that they can do. I'm paraphrasing, of course, but
yeah.
Yeah,
So
for
the
security as
answer,
a service.
yeah, so the answer lies in the past. We used to do this thing in the past. For example, all the banks used to do this check processing work. Like, whenever banks are processing the check, they used to outsource this work to a very small vendors. And with the smallest setup, like, we have audited such like organization which are operating just out of 2,000 square feet of the facility. So whenever data is getting transferred from banks to them, or whatever kind of the means of storing and processing the data, they should ensure that my data is not going to leak. If the organization is small, they would be working on a single server or maximum two servers, one router, one firewall, one blue code proxy. Okay, so they have to make sure whatever limited hardware or infrastructure they are having, it should be protection, like, it should be protected. It's not going to, it shouldn't leak. So if organization is small or large, in fact, for larger organization, the challenges are high. The attack surface is increases.
yeah, okay.
So yeah, so for smaller organization, number of servers are high. The attack surface is low. The management is very good. The logs are very much accessible, feasible, that you can know within my one server whether that my one server is patched or not, or what kind of ports has been open in that one server. So for smaller organization, I would say it's very easier things to done. They don't have to invest in large infrastructure, or like, in large softwares and all. And we have seen this in past. Like, I'm telling this from the experience. The smaller the organization, it's
Thank you.
easy.
If I may just cut you off, I've gotten one last question, and I want to do that because we have a minute left, and I want to close there. I'm sorry for cutting you off there, but the question is, it's from Gurjot Singh, who says that what is the solution when ad agencies have access to what we search through AI, and we are unable to use apps if we do not give permission to access data. So, what is the solution? If ad agencies have access to what we search through AI and are unable to use apps if permission is not given to access that data. I don't know if somebody followed that question. I didn't, but I thought it was very specific. So if somebody could take that, be great.
So that is a business model of the digital marketing, right?
Yeah,
You click something, I will come to know that he's my prospective user. And
yeah,
that is how the entire ecosystem has made.
yeah,
So the solution is we either put up the principle of data minimization. Don't browse so much things through public forum.
yeah. I guess that is fair.
And I think, Nimit, we don't read the privacy terms and conditions. I don't think people
Very good.
actually read it.
Nobody reads
Right?
this.
And nobody reads it. And in that, it is very, very clearly mentioned that what type of data and what data are they going to keep it or take it. So if you are asking that question, the question back to you is, are you actually reading those privacy terms and conditions?
In fact, the
My
companies are required
interpretation
to
of
make a
what
clear disclosure now. I mean, under the new rules.
Well, yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
There's-
my interpretation of what the question was seemed to be about he's asking, should we still go ahead and use a particular platform which is taking this kind of data? It's a resounding, again, your choice, right? You have to go in with eyes wide open. If once you know that this is the kind of data that an ad is likely to take from your browsing history, then you need to take that risk factor and decide, is it really relevant for you to go forward or not?
My final take will be, we have a do not disturb in a telecom regulation, in telecom industry. Why not we have something similar, that is for Rajiv Tripathi to think about. But with that, I think
So, but
We have
DND doesn't work at all.
No, but that
DND
is how
seems
the
to be
model.
abused more than used. Against
See, the entire model of Google and Facebook and Amazon is like you search something and they are going to provide you better and better option. So I would say with that is how the entire search engine optimization the thing has worked. Like, stop using Google. That's the best thing you have to do. Like you leave your minimal digital footprints over the internet and then you will be saved.
But
Stop
Nimit, we
using
are
Google.
talking at this juncture where our data is already out
Yeah,
across
absolutely. I
everyone.
think I meant
Yeah,
that.
Everybody has
yeah.
every access. You take your sorry, but Aadhaar card, right? I'm just giving an example, not even name. I'm saying you go, you are taking a printout, or even a hotel takes that, right, as your iCard. You don't know. It has everything in it. So
Yeah.
I think we are way beyond this. This needs a
So
very
almost
disruptive
10 to
and
15
innovative
years.
space
Right.
needs
I
to be
think
looked at.
that is yeah, a little bit of fear mongering. I mean I agree completely that if you want to use a technology, if you want to use a service, then you should be willing to give up something for it, which is your data. It's pretty much already out there. I
Yes.
personally agree with that completely. But I think the answer there is if you want to use a service, you have to be willing to give them something. And mostly these services are free in terms of money. So, as long as
Free.
as a
Yeah.
child
So
protector,
on free, you said very correct thing. If something is free, you are the
yeah,
product.
yeah.
So you are selling yourself.
I think that's a great note to end this. That if something is free, you are the product. It's with 3 minutes past our allotted time. I'd like to thank the entire panel and to Zoho World for organizing this. Give yourselves a round of applause, guys. I think fantastic discussion. Thank you for all the wonderful points that were made. We'll do a little bit of a summary and share that with our audience as well later. Thank you for coming to the audience on a Thursday afternoon on a working day. We really appreciate the numbers in which you showed it and the questions that you asked. That's awesome. And glad that this is a point of interest to all of you. And people are looking at taking the security seriously, which again is very important both organizationally and personally. On that note, thank you so much for joining us.